All right. Welcome to the Soul Sync Sessions Live. I am here with Sam Ritchie today, and I am super excited to talk about her journey and her story and everything that she is here to share. She's very passionate about space clearing, and she is an angel guide trained with Kyle Gray. So I'm super excited to hear about her journey and how she's bringing mind, body, soul into her business and all of those good things. So we should have a great conversation today.
We will.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Do you want to just give a quick introduction of who you are and how you got into space clearing and doing all of the things that you love doing now?
Yeah. So I was born in the UK and now live in Spain. Um, but yeah, so I spent my childhood and quite a lot of my adult life in the UK. And then 18 years ago, we moved to Spain. As a child, I was much happier in the spirit world. Humans terrified me. I would hide if the doorbell went. So I was a strange child. And then I'm not quite sure what happened, but at the age of about 12, I decided that I wasn't going to be terrified by life and I was just going to push through it and get on with it. So that's what I did. And so I've been pushing my own comfort zone ever since, really. Um, and then so I tried to turn off the spirits, not particularly successfully. Um, and then I started working as an estate agent because I always loved properties and I was given the opportunity to become an estate agent when I started looking for a job when I left school. I saw the advert and went for it. So if I came across any spirits while I was trying to sell a property, I would move them on and I would be able to sell properties no one else could, having no clue why. Until a few years later, when we moved home, I'd stopped estate agency by then. And we moved home, and I knew there was no entities in our house, but the energy was heavy and dark and not helped by a black bedroom with a black ceiling which got painted quite quickly. Um, but I didn't know what to do. And I was talking to someone I'd just met at the time, and she said, "Oh, you want a space clear?" I'm like, "Space clear? What's space clearing?" And so she told me what to do. So I went around the house clapping and using joss sticks, and I got all of this history of the house. I was like, okay, this is cool. Perhaps everyone sees this stuff. How cool is that? So I excitingly told her about all of these things that I'd seen. And she went, most people don't see anything. They feel better. The house is physically lighter, but they don't see all this history. So after that, every house we lived in, I space cleared. If a friend came to me because they had a problem with a smell or they just didn't feel comfortable, I'd go and clear their house for fun. And then lockdown happened. And at the time, I was working in kitchens in bars, and obviously they were all shut. So I was like, okay, my kids were then just about to leave school and just left school. So it's like, okay, the kids are sorted now, they're adults pretty much, so they can sort themselves out. I'm going to take this time for me and study with Kyle Gray and learn how to read oracle cards properly and just step into my spiritualism, basically, which I did. And I did about hundreds, I couldn't even tell you how many hundreds of free oracle card readings, just because I was like, oh, I'm loving doing this. Everyone needs so much help. And and I want to build this muscle. So let's get on and help other people while building this muscle. And then people started to want to pay me. I was like, hang on a minute, this could solve my financial issues as well. This could feed my family. So I set up a website and I put space clearing on it, thinking it's going to be a tiny bit of what I do because I live in rural Spain. You've got to have a big problem or be spiritually minded. Otherwise, why would you want space clearing? And then a friend of mine came to me. I'd space cleared their holiday home 10 years before and forgotten I'd done it and said, Sam, I need your help. I've got a property that was my grandparents'. It's rented out. It needs essential maintenance. The tenants will not let me in. Can you space clear it from a floor plan and an address? And I said, I have no clue, but I will give it a go. And as I started to draw the floor plan, all this information landed, including the names of my friend's grandparents. I was like, okay, I can do this then. And then within, and it wasn't even 24 hours, the tenants had given her access and the work was scheduled. And I was like, okay, this works then. I can do it. I don't have to physically be in the property. So that has changed absolutely everything.
Mhm.
Absolutely everything. And has allowed me now to space clear so many countries. UK, Spain, Canary Islands, Baltic Islands, Balearic Islands even, sorry. Belgium, where else have I done? Poland, America. So it really is international now. And that led to me writing a book about all of the exciting and interesting history and spirit people that I met along the way. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been quite a crazy couple of years in a really good way.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So you really did know from the time that you were very little that you had these different gifts, but you had just not intended on using them at all initially. It was like, okay, I have this thing, but you weren't gonna pursue it as like I'm gonna be a medium or I'm gonna do space clearing. It just kind of all started to piece together.
Yeah, to be fair, it wasn't until I was about 20 when I realized that not everyone could see what I could see. Up
Okay.
until that point, I thought this was totally normal and this was everyone's life. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I was about 20 and someone said, no one else can see what you can see, right? I was like, no, really had no clue. So it wasn't like it was a decision not to use my gifts. It was more of a case of it's normal. It's not something that's different or special. It was just who I was. So it didn't even cross my mind that, and I wouldn't say now, I wouldn't say I'm a spiritual medium or a
Right.
psychic medium, right? Other people call me that, but
Mhm.
that's not what I call myself, right? When I'm space clearing, yes, I get information from spirit and and from spirit entities. And yes, sometimes when I'm doing the oracle cards, I get a family member pop in, but I can't guarantee that. So as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned, if you can't call them in, then I'm not a psychic medium. Other people disagree with that. That's just my thing.
So do you identify, it's funny because I've had a lot of conversations recently about identity and like how even with myself with like sorry, I see myself as being intuitive and I can get messages not necessarily knowing if it's a specific person or probably to the level that you're getting it, but if I'm doing a human design reading or something, I feel very connected and can get I call them like downloads essentially of like, oh, you're going through something like this, and I can get some pieces that helps them to unlock and move past that block or move past that pattern just from those downloads of information. But I also don't consider myself like psychic or medium or able to tap into to that type of thing. So then when it comes to identity, I think because I blend all of those things and then I have some of a branding aspect or like the cycle syncing and coaching, I've always struggled with how do I put this in a way that people can understand, like identity wise, like how can I put the human design and the astrology and the cycle syncing together to bring that to the table. So I like having these conversations because I feel like if I can tie in a story, it like people start to get it and they can see it in action. Do you feel the same way when you're kind of trying to explain what you do, or you feel like it's people kind of get it with as far as the oracle cards and space clearing and things like that?
No, uh, people don't get it. With the oracle cards, they think a lot of people think it's gonna tell you the future. That
Yeah.
is not how I read oracle cards because
Mhm.
we have our own free will, so we can change our future. So even if a prediction was coming out, we can change that by making a different decision,
Yeah.
right? So I use oracle cards and I call myself an angel guide because I have an army of angels that work through me.
Mhm.
Um, but with the oracle cards, it's all about guidance.
Yeah.
What can this person do to help themselves? Where do they want to go? What is the best way for them to deal with the issues they're facing and to enhance their positive traits? With space clearing, it is all about changing the energy. It's
Mhm.
all about getting rid of the negative energy and or entities that are in a property. So if you think about, if you think back, right, everyone I've spoken to has gone into a place and they felt totally at home. No
Mhm.
reason. It could be dirty and untidy, but they just feel at home.
Mhm.
And on the other side, you could go to the most beautiful building and feel really uncomfortable. And we're
Mhm.
picking up the energy of that building. That's what that is. And we even say if you walk into a room and there's been an argument, we say you can cut the atmosphere with a knife. Right?
Yeah.
We're picking up the energy, but we're living in that energy as well
Mhm.
because the property holds that energy like we hold memories.
Yeah.
So we're picking up on that. So what space clearing does is get rid of all the negative stuff. And it doesn't matter if the house is brand new because it could be in the land, right?
Mhm.
Or the builders could have been having a bad day. So it
Mhm.
doesn't matter the age of the property. What we want to do is get rid of the negative stuff and bring back the positive stuff so that the wonderful Christmas parties that were held come up. So we get that feeling, we get that sense of joy, that sense of peace.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you're raising the vibration. So then it's you raise the vibration of the space and it brings like versus like, and you're attracting more of that high energy within that
Yeah,
space. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
That's beautiful. And then I love that you call yourself a guide as well, because I think too, when you're intuitive and you're working with people that are probably more spiritual or at least open to that concept, it's the whole goal, especially even for myself in my business when I'm coaching somebody, is I don't want to have to be your coach forever. Like I don't want you to have to come to me for guidance forever. My goal is to give you the tools so that you can become sovereign and you can, like, I can help guide you through that path or break through those patterns and kind of come back to yourself. So I love that you kind of do something similar of this is what I see what's going through. Because sometimes we always need those mirrors of somebody else to kind of share that with you or give you a different perspective. And you're kind of doing something
All
similar
of
with
us do.
the oracle cards.
All,
Yeah.
yeah, all of us do because we're right in the thick of it, right?
Yeah.
We're in the middle of our own lives.
Yeah.
So sometimes it gets really difficult to see the wood for the trees, right? Because we're so stuck in a situation and it's like very difficult to move away from that. And it's with the oracle cards, it's like a nudge, and sometimes it can be just a confirmation. Yeah, you're doing the right thing. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely feel that it empowers people to trust their own intuition a bit more as well. Because
Mm.
when we don't trust our intuition, in my experience, that's when things go a bit wonky, and
Yeah.
become really difficult. If you've got two paths to choose from, one looks much easier than the one your intuition's telling you to take. You take that easy path, it's never the easy path, in
Yep.
my experience, when I haven't listened, because
Yeah.
I'm not perfect, right? So I don't always listen, but whenever I don't listen, oh my God, I really wish I had.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's something. So for me, I went through adrenal fatigue a couple years ago, and I'd always seen like the psychic mediums or watched the shows where people were doing, the ghost shows and like all that stuff. And I was always very intrigued in the spiritual world ever since I was little. And I think I was very intuitive. I know that I'm extremely empathic. And so I went into wedding planning, which horrible job for an empath, especially if you don't know how to ground your own energy. Just that's a bad, that's how I burnt myself out. But I don't think that people realize the energy. We think of Wi-Fi like, oh, it's just this thing that happens and it connects us to everything else, but that's energy. Like if you think of it in the same way, the signals that are coming through as far as energy that we're picking up, whether it's spirits or the energy around you, or like you said, there's an argument that happens in the room, we're all sensitive to it at some degree, and it's just working that muscle and kind of understanding it and
Yeah.
reconnecting that. And once I was able to heal my body is when my intuition came back on, because I think that there was so much interference from all of that stuff happening in on top of society, which has disconnected us, especially as women. Like we're stuck in a 9 to 5 grind, which is totally against our cycle and what we're designed, how we're designed to work, how we're designed to be. We're human beings, not humans doing, but we're doing so much that we're not allowing the input. So is that something that you've ever struggled with, trying to find the balance, as far as, okay, I need to be in order to receive the guidance so that I can trust my intuition?
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm a doer,
Yeah,
right? I and my husband will always go, "Will you just sit down?" And I'm like, "I will in a minute." And he'll be like, "You've just got up again." I'm like, "Yeah, but I've got no idea. I've got to go and write it down." Or I just got to wash those dishes before, and it's like, just sit down. And so yeah, for me, it can be full on.
mhm,
So I have to work out ways. Okay, so I don't watch the TV. I watch films,
mm,
but I don't watch like Spanish or English TV or anything like that, because also you get bombarded by what they want to show you, and most of the time it's not very uplifting. And if you
very
watch the news, when's there good news on there?
right.
All right, and that keeps us in a lower vibration
Hmm.
and makes it harder for us to just be, because then we've got, oh my God, everything's so bad. This is happening in the world, da 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 da, rolling around in our heads all the time. So
Hmm.
that it makes us even more disconnected.
Yeah. Do you find, as a business owner, so I come from a marketing background and I had done social media management and stuff like that for clients, where I was constantly either on the computer or on social media, kind of posting, doing the engagement, doing that stuff. And it's a lot of overstimulation. I think we get overstimulated with just tons of information. I know as business owners and as a coach working with women to build their brands and businesses, a lot of times when they come to me, they're in a survival mode or a freeze mode almost, because they're so overstimulated with information. Do you kind of avoid trying to scroll through the Instagram and the social media and doing all of those things a little bit?
Yeah, I can't really get my head around Instagram, if I'm totally honest. I
Yeah.
post on Instagram,
Hmm.
that is it. And also I've got no inclination to get my head around it anymore. I know how
Yeah.
to post, that's it. And I do go on Facebook a lot, but I don't scroll too much. And I find that works for me, because then the things that come up are people looking for guests on podcasts, and not much else, to be fair, at the moment. But I schedule all of my social media posts once a week. If
Perfect.
something comes up in the meantime that I really want to share that, then I will do an extra post, but I don't spend hours scrolling. I go on there and I use it for my gain.
Hmm. That's awesome. So I find I try to get my clients to do that too, or at least plan out in advance, like, okay, this is what you're going to talk about this week. This is what you're going to talk about, kind of batch your content. Because also, if you look at the way that we're designed as women too, we're designed to not do the same thing day in and day out. So if you're constantly starting over each day of like, okay, I have to do all of these things again, versus let me batch my content, and do that kind of a thing, or do a long form video like something like this where you can then chop it up and use different pieces of it and you have content for a couple weeks, couple days at least. Different things like that that you can share. We get into a creative burnout mode. And then we're not allowing time for input because we are setting ourselves up to constantly have to do and to respond to different things, which can lead to burnout. But I always find it interesting because as business owners, we want to be visible and we want to have these different outlets to share what we're doing and to share our gifts and different things like that. But I think people sometimes find it tricky of feeling like they have to be constantly out there doing things or out there sharing these different things on different platforms versus allowing you to just be or to be able to have these conversations and make those connections for sure.
Yeah, and also everyone says, you know, you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent. Well, that's great, but if you're trying to run a business, how are you going to be consistently on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, doing lives on all the platforms unless you use you know, there is a StreamYard, I think it's called,
Mhm.
that you can do all of that. But again, you have to pay for that.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, for me, it's like if I schedule, I might bob on and do a live. Well, I do a live every other Tuesday anyway, that's booked in. But it's like, how can I use my time to the best for me? And as
Yeah.
you say, if you, it feels pressure. You really do feel pressure. Well, I was trying to do TikTok and it got to the point where, you know what, I don't want to do this every day going on there trying, you know, it's like, no, it's not working for me. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not going to do TikTok again, but it's just like at this moment in time, I've not got the headspace to be constantly creating new content. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's fair too. And I always try to say if it's not feeling aligned, your energy is going to come through then of like, oh, I don't want to do this. I feel that resistance. And that's going to come through when you're talking about your story or your message because you're only doing it because you have to. So ultimately, it's not going to help you because your energy is not going to be a match for who you're actually trying to call in.
Yeah.
Um, so is there like in sharing being a soul-centered and spiritual entrepreneur, do you how am I trying to say this? How do you find like connecting with your clients and sharing your story in that space without, I know a lot of people even hesitate or they feel like they're trying to be salesy when you approach your marketing or talking about your offers, is there any tricks or things that you have done in order to make it not feel that way?
Yeah, I wrote a book. That was a good one.
Perfect. That is a great talking point. And
Yeah,
tell us about the book too.
yeah. So I've got a copy here. So Echoes Within Walls, and it is it's case studies of the work I've done,
Okay.
predominantly, and it also tells you how you can do it yourself. Because I believe everyone and anyone can space clear, and should be space clearing. The only time they shouldn't do it is if they're scared of what they might see or if they've got mental health issues, right? That's the only time that, you know, you shouldn't do it yourself, really. Um, but by writing that, it has got me to a totally different audience. And then I
Mhm.
was asked to do the first podcast I did, I was asked to do, I was like, oh, this is such fun. Right. So now I've done quite a lot. Because I love it. It's fun. I don't want to host a podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm loving being a guest. So I'm use so it yeah, my marketing is people like you really and my book.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that's really like having these conversations and just having an authentic, like, hey, what are you doing? And sharing your story and connecting on these different ways. It's amazing because you get to talk about it and you make a new connection and then your audiences overlap. So it's like that's why I love doing these kinds of collaborations, and that's why I started this series, is to bring different women. Like, we probably would have never connected without having, hey, I have this idea and I'd love to bring women on that have a different story to tell and having this space. But it's also easier when you're just having a conversation that's authentic and you're making a connection versus feeling like, oh, I have to sell something or I have to do that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. And then I have a question for you. You mentioned that you shouldn't clear a space if you're afraid of what you might see. So is there a way that you recommend if people overcoming that fear or tapping into that, or how do you guide people through that?
Um, if you're really scared, just don't do it. Get someone who does it to do it, right? Um, there the chances of you seeing something, depending who you are, is not normal to see stuff.
Mhm.
But when we're scared, what you'll be doing is putting that fear into the energy of the home. You don't want to do that, right? We're
Yeah.
trying to get rid of that. And also, you pull in more things to be scared of,
Yep.
right? So you're attracting more things to be scared of. So that's why I would say don't do it if you're scared. Also, before you do it, protect your energy. So
Mhm.
if you already have a practice where you put yourself in a protective bubble or suit of armor, do that before you start, right?
Yeah.
If you don't know how to do it, there is a free meditation on my YouTube channel and on my website so that people are armed with the tools they need to be able to do it. I do it in the shower because it doesn't take up any more time. It's now a habit, so I no longer forget. Before I was doing this work, and it was just something I did for fun. Um, if I went anywhere and I'd forgotten to bubble up, put my protection on, then I was really um, they would just fly at me. Spirit would just fly at me, and it was overwhelming.
Mhm.
So I had to find a way that made sure that I never forget to put my protection on. And how I did that was when I have a shower, I wash my hair and I put my protection on.
I love
And that works for me
that. Mhm.
because as I said to you before, I'm always quite busy. I'm always 100 miles an hour. So it's like, how can I add something else into my day without putting myself under pressure?
Yeah. And that habit stacking, and I do something similar, kind of where I try to like clear the energy or clear like anything when I do my face wash. So if you have a habit that you're doing even for self-care, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, washing your face, I like to talk about putting the intention behind it, where I'm
Yeah.
not just washing my face, not doing something mundane, but like I'm clearing any of the energy that was heavy or lower vibrational, or I'm clearing that all off by washing my face. And then when I put my moisturizer on, that's me kind of like protecting myself and I
Yeah.
guess clearing that and putting like I see it as like a gold layer of protection and then like a white light of armor around me is kind of how I envision that happening as far as a bubble. But when I was doing wedding planning and I kind of, I mean, I always knew that I could sense energy, but I didn't know to the level of like, this is what being an empath is, and you're actually taking on the energy and watching how stress can break your body down and feeling that. I don't think that we really associate the two or make the connection a lot of times, but your body holds on to those emotions. And I never knew the different, I guess, energy hygiene, or what would you call it as far as just kind of those energy practices to clear yourself and kind of ground yourself throughout the day. What can people do, I guess, that don't know how sensitive they are to just kind of get into the habit of doing that? Do you just recommend kind of like you were talking about in the shower?
Yeah. And using salt in the shower as well.
Okay.
So that's twofold because it gets rid of negative energy. It's also really nice on your skin, right? So that's a win-win. But yeah, if you've got no clue how to do it, listen to the meditation. It's free, and but that gets rid of as well. Before you bubble up, you get rid of everything like you do with your washing your face. You get rid of all the negative stuff, all the stuff that's holding you back, and then you put your protection on. And that is really important to do, especially if you're doing this sort of work,
Yeah.
because we are all to some degree empathic as well. And
Mhm.
so we take on everyone else's stuff. And we've got enough to deal with our own, haven't we? We
Yeah.
don't need other people's, right? So
Exactly.
just find what works for you. Just find what works for you. But salt in the shower as well is really good at getting rid of that. Incense, candles, Palo Santo, sage, everything you use in space clearing, you can use
Mhm.
on yourself as well.
Yeah. And so when you were talking about how it was kind of just always on, the spirits were always talking at you, do you use the bubbling then to protect you and sit, or do you have a different ritual where it's like, okay, I'm getting ready to work now. I'm getting ready to do an oracle reading or a space clearing where you call in the guides, or how do you go about kind of, I guess, turning it on and off a little bit?
Yeah. So how I turn it on is I call them in. So I use Carl Gray's well, what's the word I'm looking for? Methods. It wasn't quite the word I was looking for, but you know what I mean.
Works.
Uh, where I open up my third eye so I can see. I open up my ears so that I can hear. I I have an imaginary dial at the back of my head that tunes me into the angels and guides. And I open up my heart to give and receive unconditional love. But when you start doing these things, you can do them automatically,
Hmm.
right? So I hold in-person circle and I have to drive there. So on my way while I'm driving, I'm doing that as well. That doesn't mean I'm driving dangerously. I'm not, right? But you can do it, or you just by your intention. Your intention is key. And with space clearing, it is all about your intention. Um, but when I didn't understand so much, if I went to, for example, a cathedral in Seville, I walked in and I saw all of the history, and then the spirits were literally screaming for my attention, and it was too much. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, we went to Salzburg and we went to the castle there. And because we like historic buildings, right? So this is a bit of a double-edged knife for me because I love old buildings. Yeah, I'm on holiday. I want to rest.
Yeah. True.
So I set the intention before I went. I'd had my shower, I've done my protection, and I went, I'm on holiday. However, having said that, I'm not, if there's a spirit that wants to go to the light, I am not going to not do that because I can't. That's my mission on earth. So it's like, okay, I'm on holiday. I will, of course, move people on, but I do not want to see anything. And the strangest thing happened. They were all stood very respectfully away from me, almost lined up for me to send them on their way, or to ask that it's not me that does it, they just use me, right, to to send them to the light. My husband kept going, you're working again, because my eyes go like that apparently. And he's
That's
like,
how we know.
you're working again.
Yeah, so I mean, well, and that is when you have a soul mission, it is hard. You can't really just go on vacation. And when you have something that is like that and the gifts, so it is kind of different than, okay, I'm out of office. I'm not checking my emails today. I'm not doing any of that stuff, but there's still other
Yeah, it
things.
doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter if I don't check my emails. There is still, if I'm out and about. I mean, we're not talking about a beach holiday here, where, although I guess that could happen there as well. Um, we're talking, where we like going to historic places, so
Mhm.
you're going to get history there.
Yeah,
So it's just like, okay, don't show me. I don't want to see. And be respectful. I'm on holiday.
yeah.
I I'm not being paid for this. I'm on holiday. Of course I'm going to help, but be respectful.
Yeah, and I think that is that is a hard one because you can't just completely turn it off. So you're always going to have
Yeah,
something happening there.
yeah.
But so going into the mind, body, soul practice, when you do have a spiritual business and you are doing something where you're using your energy and your presence is really your gifts and your power and what you're doing. I think a lot of us we do the self-care things like we wash our face, we might take a bubble bath, do those kinds of things, but they're very surface level. Um, do you have any practices that are like deeper self-care or grounding yourself and kind of really diving in so that you can maintain continuing to use these gifts without having pushing yourself towards burnout, I guess?
Yeah, I have a very set morning routine, and it starts with a cup of tea. Um, and I like to sit on my own for a period of time, and that period of time can change. Um, just because when I get up in the morning, my head is going 600 miles an hour, and it's like, okay, just be as noisy as you want, and then you can calm down. Just to sort of process everything. So I do that. That's the first thing I do. Then I write a journal. So, and sometimes that can be, yesterday was a fantastic day, XYZ happened. Sometimes it can be random thoughts in my head. It can be whatever. And it's my journal, so it doesn't matter. Right.
Yep.
So journaling is great. I highly recommend it for anyone. And it doesn't matter whether it even makes sense because it's only for you. And then I pull an oracle card every day just to keep me on track. So I know what direction I'm heading. What do I need to know about the day? Where do I need my attention to go? And then I do a very small bit of yoga before I start my day. And then I have breakfast and then I crack on. But that to me, when I've been journaling pretty much every single day for 7 years, I reckon. Before I found if I wasn't writing constantly, um, not constantly, consistently,
Mhm.
that things didn't go so well.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm doing any sort of writing, for me, life goes better. And
Yeah.
that can be a couple of lines in a journal.
Hmm. And I think that is key of setting yourself up for success in the morning of whether that's a consistent routine or each week you kind of shift it up a little bit, but you have something consistent where you're doing intentional and allowing yourself the thing that came through for me last week because I just moved recently. So I was, I'd wake up the second I get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, let me unpack this box, let me move here, let me do this. And I would just start doing before I would actually have an intentional, let me sit down and have a cup of tea or eat some breakfast and let my mind settle for a minute, let myself wake up. I was just stepping into the doing mode. And my I got the download when I was in the kitchen the one day. It was like, you are constantly just outputting, and we're trying to help you here, like to guide you
Yeah.
in the right direction, but you
Yeah,
are
will you
not allowing
slow
any
down? Yeah. Will
you are
you slow
not allowing
down?
any input. So I was like, okay. It was like, and or people get into the habit of picking up their phone and they're scrolling and they're like, well, I'm just resting, I'm just waking up. But number one, the blue light is horrible for your eyes in the morning. That'll spike your cortisol. Number two, you're inputting external information before you're allowing yourself to actually process and get any spiritual confirmation or downloads or even to just allow yourself that moment in the morning too.
Yeah, I don't even look at my phone and my messages, nothing until I've done my journaling and my yoga.
Yeah.
And so it's like my kids who are now in their 20s always laugh. If we have a problem, you're not going to see it until like you've finished everything else. Correct. Right. If you have a problem, you better keep phoning consistently because I'm not likely to answer the phone either. So, um, but that works for me.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
works for me.
And I think that's important, and it's just finding what works for you, because we're all designed uniquely.
Yeah. And also the night before, I write a to-do list. I'm big on lists. I have lists for lists on lists.
Yeah.
But for me, a to-do list means that I've got it. out of my head. So it's not going, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. I've got it out of my head. It's on the list. Okay. I've got a call with Samantha at 2. I've got a call later on. I know what times it is. What else do I need to do? And to be fair, before I started doing this work, I was not very good at eating because I was never hungry. Um, so I used to forget. So lunch still goes on my list.
Yeah.
Initially, it was because I'd forget otherwise because I just wasn't hungry. Now doing this work, I'm starving all of the time, so I don't forget to eat. But it still goes on my list because it feels really good when you cross it off.
Yes, yes, I'm a very much a list maker too, and I'll do the same thing because I think we get anxious of like, okay, I have to remember this, I have to do that, and when your mind goes a million miles a minute, it never fails when you're trying to lay down to go to sleep. That's when all the things start coming through of what you have to remember. So I even started keeping like a notebook next to my bed where if it's like I'm laying there and I'm like, oh, I was totally supposed to do that today and I forgot, I can write it down so that I don't forget the next day.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great habit to do. So do you, that brings me to, I guess, my next question of do you have a wind down routine then where you kind of help to shut your mind off? You have your startup routine in the morning. The wind down routine has been the hardest for me to consistently get done. I have to make a list to check it off so that I can do that myself.
Yeah, I guess what that would be, well, quite often I work quite late. Like I do lives at 8:30 my time, which means then I'm not finishing till 9:30. Uh, but what I do, I always do my list for the next day. What do I need to do
Mhm.
for the next day? I watch a really cheesy film or a really cheesy series that's not going to trigger me about
Yeah.
anything that and to be fair, most of the time I don't think I could tell you what the story was, right? But it stops all of the messages and the thoughts and just everything. So that would be my routine. And if we go out, I can't. Also, I used to have a bar. So when I got home, I was always wired because I've been working in a bar and there's loads of people and overstimulated with all the people and stuff. So I got into the habit then of like having an hour, no matter what time I
Mhm.
got home, to of just watching trash.
Yeah.
And then that just sorts me out. But if we go out now for a night out, I cannot go to bed when I get home. I have to just turn off my brain by watching some trash. And I don't watch anything horrifying, or anything that could be like, oh my God, that could happen. Right. It's
Yeah.
I watch stuff that I like, okay, although I do really like things like Most Haunted and all of those programs because they're so hilarious. I'm not sure they're meant to be comedies, but for me, they're like the best comedies because they're always so scared.
Yeah. Well, and that was, I think, why when you said don't do it if you're scared, I was like, well, is there a way to turn it off? Because everybody in those shows is always terrified and they're
I
attracting all the energy then.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, this is so hilarious. Why on earth would you want to do that job if you're that terrified?
Very true.
Although I do, it's like also they don't ever send, well, I've not seen anywhere where they send them to the light, which I don't agree with. So they would never have me on one of those shows because
You'd be telling
because
them what's going
I
on
mean
here.
I mean like I can't leave this place and leave them hanging here. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's what I think is interesting because, I used to watch all of the I still watch them sometimes too, and it's interesting because I live in Savannah, Georgia, which is one of the most haunted places in the United States. There's so
Was
much.
it?
Yeah, it's if you've never been or if you've never looked at it,
No.
it's gorgeous. It's very the history you would love it. Because it's, very like a lot of the buildings from the 1800s and different things like that. It's still the cobblestone streets. There's a lot of historic preservation that they've done. So it's beautiful. And there's tons of ghost tours. They even have one where it's like you sit in a hearse and drive around to the different places, but it's all these like hoaxy, and they'll tell you the ghost stories and you'll go on ghost hunts, but they're hunting the ghosts, but they are never actually complete. They're not doing a job. It's just like, oh, well, I think we caught one. We had a voice here or something like that, but they are not releasing them. So it is interesting, because I guess from that perspective, the ghosts are not, or spirits are technically not supposed to be here. Are they kind of like a caught in an in-between? How would you describe that?
Yeah, some spirits are just popping in, right? They can go wherever they want. They've just come in to send their love to the people they loved, right?
Yeah.
And they're totally fine. We have no issue with them. They don't need any help at all. It's the ones that are stuck, right?
Okay.
So that could happen because they had a traumatic death and don't know they're dead. I've had that quite a few times. They just don't know they've died, right? So they're stuck and they're just like, what's going on? Right?
Yeah.
Why is there people in my house? And then the other side is when you get someone who was not particularly pleasant in life and
Okay.
they wanted control in life and they are not prepared to give it up in death, right? So they're the two normal reasons why a spirit would be stuck. But
Okay.
and as far as I'm concerned, we need to allow them to go on their soul's journey.
Yeah.
So if they want to bob in and tell people they love them, fab. We love that, right? We want them to do that, but we don't want them to be stuck. We
Yeah.
want them to be able to continue their soul's journey. Interestingly enough, I applied to go on a podcast about the paranormal, and they didn't think I was a good fit.
Interesting. Did they give you a reason why, or just
I didn't align with their message,
okay?
which really made me laugh.
Yeah. 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 It's funny because I watch all the like the ghost adventures, and he is one of the ones that is very terrified when he goes in anywhere, but he's done some that are in Savannah, and you can feel the energy when you go in some places where
Oh yeah, I bet you can.
they're definitely stuck. Well, and it's like there's graveyards that are here that they just moved the headstones and kind of paved over it, and there's like you're never more than certain I think it's like 10 feet or something away from a body when you're downtown because of all the history and the wars and everything that happened here and when Sherman burned down the city and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of history here, and you can feel it.
Yeah. So graveyards don't tend to be populated by many spirits,
Yeah.
right? Because let's face it, why would you want to hang around where your meat suit is, right?
Yeah.
There's no
True.
real connection. There's no real connection. So they don't tend to be that busy. I have actually space cleared a graveyard. Um, but that feeling we could get in a graveyard is just the residual energy of all the sorrow that goes with when someone passes, right? Because we all feel grief.
Yeah.
And what we're picking up, that, ooh, it's a bit spooky here. Actually, what we're picking up is the grief of
That's interesting.
people. Although when I did do space clear the one cemetery that I've done, um, there was a few, but not many.
Yeah. Well, and I that kind of makes sense because that's not a place that they spent time at
Any
while they were
time.
alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're not leaving an imprint or the energetics there versus your home, which makes sense where you spend so much time and you put, your heart and soul into your home, especially if you built it or you had a family there or all of those memories and things like that,
Yeah.
leaving an energetic imprint. So what is your I guess this is kind of a twofold question. What's the favorite place that you have um, done any clearing or work in, and what is one place that you would absolutely love to do some work in?
Well, I've been really lucky that I work and actually hold a circle there in a local hotel, which is also used to be a palace. and I just love that place. It's just amazing. Um, and they have it's very well, it's all in my book. It's really interesting history, bearing in mind Spain had a very traumatic past, and this area of Spain had a very, very traumatic past. So there's lots of priests. Now they weren't really men of God. These priests were pretending to be men of God. They weren't. So there's quite a lot of them that have come up. But I really love Palisetti, and as I say, I work there every week anyway, doing circle, and I space clear it regularly because when you've got a hotel, you've got people coming in and out, and they're dropping their energy. You know, if someone's had an argument with their partner or whatever, that would still be there. You don't know who's coming in when you've got a building like that. So
Mhm.
that's one of my favorite places to do. I've also done another palace, which was pretty fab. Um, so that's cool. Where would I like to do? There is one house, and it would be a really hard work. It's apparently the most haunted house in Spain, and it's apparently very demonic. And it's near Marbella, no, Malaga, sorry. And they they couldn't even knock it down to build the motorway. They had to go round it because it's that bad, apparently.
Wow.
And I would really love to do that. Although it
Quite
would be
a
a
challenge.
big challenge, huge challenge. And I suspect it won't come up yet because I'm not quite ready.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping at some point in the future um, that it might just come up so that I can have a go at doing what no one else has been able to do.
Yeah. There's one of the I don't know that it's necessarily demonic, but they do have a lot of activity in it. It's called the Moon River Brewing Company. Um, it's the building that was in it now, the business that was in it now, and they've got like 2 stories. And then there's 3 stories above that that they have never renovated because for the couple hundred years that they've had it, they were like, we can't like every time we go in here, crazy things start happening and we haven't been able to ever complete it. And so they just recently sold the building. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen there if they got to have somebody come in and clear it before they start to do that, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, give them my card. I'll do it from a floor plan.
I totally will. Oh, that would be really interesting. Have you ever had any experiences with like the demonic or dark energies that have scared you?
Not that have scared me. I've had a couple of occasions. The first was I was doing a space clearing job in person, and I wasn't scared, but my client was a little bit terrified because my facial features changed. That's
Okay.
the only time that I know that it's happened because I was actually stood in front of a mirror as well, so I could see it. I was like, oh, okay, that's new. But I wasn't scared because my angel army, I could see them around me. So I wasn't scared. My client was a little freaked out. Um, um, and I didn't believe in demonic energies. So they gave me a place to do that had demonic energy in it just to prove me wrong. So that was done from a floor plan, and it had like a vortex, a hole where demonic energy was coming out of. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I wasn't scared. Again, I have my army of angels, they make sure I'm protected. But that was quite heavy going, and I did have to leave my office a few times just to go, okay. But
Yeah.
there was also black magic had been, it was a portal to the demonic, which
Okay.
I didn't believe in until I did it. So, um, but it was also it attracted black magic because of that. So not only was it a portal, it'd been an active portal because people were calling stuff up in the past, not in the present, but in the past they had. So, and the owner was trying to sell it, and there was no end of problems, legal issues. Um, and he told me because I got that the people that lived there, he'd never lived there. would have trouble with relationships, have trouble with money, would become extremely selfish. And he said that's exactly what was happening with anyone who'd ever lived there. And this is a
Wow.
beautiful property. But whoa, yeah, it was like, okay, you don't believe in demons? We'll give you some.
Well, and I think it's interesting because I've heard both sides of the story where, if you, I don't know if you follow David Guyam at all, but he talks about like the Kabbalah and different things like that, where when you're trying to call in abundance and work on your soul's journey and your purpose, everything is light to some experience or to some extent. The experiences that you're going through are here to teach you a lesson. But I still think that there are like the darker energies, like you're talking about, the demonic side of things where you can kind of you still have to protect yourself and be careful of your intention. Again, it goes back to the intention of what you're calling in.
Yeah, yeah. Because for me, my belief before this property was that, yeah, there's some people that have done acts that we would say are demonic, right? But
Mhm.
there's not like the little red man living under the ground where we're all going to go to hell if we don't do this. I was like, I don't believe that we've got that. Okay, I still don't believe we've got that exactly, but but it's like okay, so and it does make sense that there's demonic energy in the world because we're if we've all been, which I believe, we've all been the perpetrator and the victim in past
Mhm.
lives, right? And
Yeah.
also in this life to some degree, sometimes we make comments that we perhaps shouldn't. Um, and so if we're all light and dark, then of course it does make sense that there's dark energy as well as light energy. It's
Yeah.
just that I was not prepared to see it until I had to.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is quite
I
the spectrum. So,
yeah. So it does make sense. It was just I didn't want to have that. Um, I didn't want to believe that. So because I was refusing to believe it,
yeah.
they sent me a property where I could no longer deny it.
Yeah. They will do that. All right. Well, I have one final question to kind of close this out here today. And then I'll let you tell everybody where they can find you and how you can help them to clear their spaces. And I will definitely send your information to the Moon River Brewing Company for sure. Um, this might be a tricky question, but in my breakthrough sessions, I always kind of see it as I'm a catalyst for the clients that I'm guiding. And I help to kind of bring them to what I call like a point of impact or a breakthrough moment. So if you think of a ripple, it's like that center stone that kind of sends you out on this journey. So do you have a point of impact moment that kind of stands out for you that has brought you to where you are today when you look back?
It was well, there's been more than one. The
Hmm.
Let me give you two. The two big ones was lockdown and studying with Carl Gray, and then my friend saying, "Can you do this from a floor plan?" They were the two really big breakthrough moments.
Yeah. And they kind of really showed you your power and how that there are no bounds to it. You can do it from wherever.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, I have to own who I am.
Yeah.
I cannot pretend that I am not this anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and you know what? Life's so much better when you go, okay, this is who I am. If you don't like me, that's none of my business.
Yeah.
If you're scared, and some people are scared of me, which I find quite hilarious because I don't think I'm scary at all. But they think you can read their mind,
Oh,
which is really hilarious because then they put up all these walls. I don't go around reading people's minds, right? So why would I do that? Yeah, as soon as they put up all these walls, all I can see is these walls, and I'm like, "Oh, you got something to hide." I don't say that, but it's
what you're
hilarious.
thinking. That's amazing. Well, and I think too what you said, like we're not actually in control. Like you are here as a channel and they use you as that point so that you can help
Yeah.
spirits and stuff cross over, but you're not actually necessarily doing the work. Your angels are there
No,
doing.
they aren't. Absolutely, I'm not. They just need a human, and I happen to be the human.
Yep. And I think that's valid. Like we all have a purpose and we're the channel, and it's just kind of clearing out that resistance and the things that have brought us to this point that no longer serve us and releasing those so that you can be authentic in your moment and stand your ground and share your power and your gifts that you're here to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, where can everybody find you for everybody that is watching this video and wants to connect and learn a little bit more?
Okay, so you can check out my website, which is samangelguide.com. I'm on Facebook, Sam Angel Guide, Instagram, Sam Angel Guide, YouTube, Sam Angel Guide. So if you put Sam Angel Guide in, you should find me.
Amazing. And I'll link it all below too, so that they have that, as well as if you'll send me the link to your book too, I will link that in there because I know that there's a bunch of people that are probably interested in that too.
Yeah, and that's available worldwide in bookshops and on Amazon
Okay,
and any digital platform, actually.
amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on today. I loved every minute of this. It was so fun to have
Thank
this
you.
conversation. So, all right, we'll talk to you soon. Okay, let me